Hello and welcome to week 11 of the USA Rugby Clubhouse. You may and may not have noticed that we had a small break. It was the middle of the season, so we fancied a little break, a little bit of time to get away, freshen up. It meant that I got to go away with the boys, some of the boys in Rooney, to Nashville for a few days and had a little weekend in the Hamptons. I see that Mr. Mike Petrie, my co-host, has also managed to get away. Had a nice smile on your face. But your away was coaching Nyack, was it this weekend, and fully immersed in rugby, being Mr. American Rugby himself.
Yeah, we had a game on Saturday. It was like 120 degrees on the turf, man. I like, there are times when I'm watching rugby and I think, oh man, I really want to go out and play, right? I miss it so much. Yeah. Saturday was not that day. It was so hot on that turf.
Dude, I trained today and my feet were on fire from minute one. And we were supposed to start like early in the morning, but our meetings ran late and we were out. It must have been like 95 degrees. It was horrible. And then we're doing conditioning games because we had a week off. So it was just minging. The whole thing was disgusting.
And like the thing is so had it not been that the season got pushed back, you guys would be pretty much done by now. You'd be looking at a final next weekend.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Bring that back, Mikey. I'm not looking forward to training in the sun.
I know. I wonder if next year, if they'll push everything back up and then aim to end around the end of June, like they had traditionally, to sort of give that summer heat a bit of a rest, and nobody's running around in the summer inferno around the country.
I want to enjoy the heat the right way, Mikey, by a pool or by a beach with a pina colada like you do most weekends. I want that lifestyle. I need it.
Time out. Don't pull me into your world for any day, folks. That's like, I might enjoy the beach and the heat, but I was out surfing Saturday morning. I was not sitting by pina coladas. That's not how this goes.
The old surfboard's back out already.
It was good waves here. It was good waves, Ben. It was really Rockaway was picking up on Saturday morning, so it was good. I got to go to Rockaway, spend some time in the morning with my girls, and then go coach in the afternoon. So it was good. It was a good little weekend.
A good weekend, and a good weekend rugby-wise. Plenty of action going on as always. Yeah, there was some real. We talked about it. Obviously, we didn't film the show, but we talked about what we'd expect. I think most games turned out the way we sort of thought they would in the long run, but nowhere near the close runs. The first game I'll talk about is the Utah-Seattle one, which I was like, listen, Seattle threw it away. They were literally, it was like they were desperate to lose at the end. They were like, oh, please, Utah, win this game, and gave them chance after chance after chance. And it was raining and it was a little bit tricky conditions, but Jesus, Seattle, they only had themselves to blame, and Utah got lucky. In my book, I think they got very lucky. They scored a pushover try, but Seattle were just, they had a chance to kick for touch and have a penalty deep inside Utah's half, and it didn't even nearly go out. Then they had a penalty to kick to go 8 points ahead. It didn't even nearly go over. It was very apparent that Seattle have injuries, especially in that key position at 10 and goal kick. And normally Ben Seamer's there who knocks them over for fun. Now Matt Turner's gone, who's sort of their backup goal kicker. Although he wasn't, he's not Mr. Consistent. He had kicked goals and he has that under his belt. But it's so apparent to me that they're missing a goal kicker, an out-and-out goal kicker who kicks goals. And they just threw it away, threw it away at the end. And Utah.
What's really tough is when you look at Seattle, a team that has had, think about when we've played. I mean, I know you played there this season, but did you play there this season? You did go to Seattle. You made that trip to Seattle. Yeah. So I think back to when we went out to play there as well. And there's such a good vibe in their arena, right? Like they were doing so much right those first couple of years. And then this season, it just seems to have all gone wrong, right? Everything that could have gone wrong seems to have gone wrong. And so from a fan perspective, you feel like they're maybe losing some interest, right? Like they're not sort of the same push that they had from their 16th player, on the sideline, because Seattle was a tough place to play, right? Like when we went there, it was a pretty rowdy place.
Yeah.
But this weekend actually did show like signs of, from what I was actually seeing, at least anyway, it showed signs of that there was some life back in their fan base, which is at least a positive step in the right direction. And some of the fans were even saying online, and some of the social media posts that they were making, was that they were proud of the Seawolves effort and they enjoyed the game. And it was the first time they've seen Seattle really piece together something this season that they wanted to watch. Right. And so, that if anything, as a positive, like I agree, Seattle sort of let Utah have that one and it was there for the taking for them. But nonetheless, I mean, look, that's a positive thing when your fans are still into it and they're still excited by it and they're proud of you despite, 1 point loss. I think that's, as a team, you're like, oh, it stinks. But if you're trying to build a fan base and you're trying to build momentum, at least that's a step in a decent direction.
Yeah, no doubt, Mikey, no doubt. Seattle at times looked good out there. They scored good tries. Their set piece was good. But what I'm saying is that,
no, you're right.
As a professional unit, you can't do that
right.
for the last 5-10 minutes of the game. And the players will be kicking themselves, the coaches will be kicking themselves. And Utah are a good team. So to be winning with 5 minutes left of the game and be 5 points up against Utah is a good result. They're playing good rugby. Utah is second in their league and probably one of the best offenses out there. And they were toe-to-toe with them, matching them, and threw it away at the end. And I think they'll be disappointed. But Utah, again, my biggest critique with Utah is they can score tries, but boy, can they concede them. And they need to play both sides of the ball. And that's the main thing. And, a lot of hype around Mikey Teo and Mika Cruz and Lance Williams, our guests later on. And they are playing brilliant rugby, but they are purely, if you look at Utah, I would say that they're probably the strongest offense in the league, the best at scoring tries. They run the ball from everywhere. They are a very dangerous team. But they just concede points every week. Every week, a team puts 20 points on them.
And I think an important cog in their piece out there and what they've got with Utah is that I think Mike Baska is a guy that plays 9 for them. That's had a really good season. I mean, he's getting called up to the Eagles now to get some time at the test level.
Yeah.
So I think it's noticeable that Utah's offense is ticking, and their halfback's a big important part of that. So I'm excited for him. Young kid from Kansas, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Lindenwood player from Lindenwood University. He'd be super excited to get a shot with the U.S. this summer. I mean, what it's like to go out and play at Twickenham. I mean, I can't imagine. I never had that on him. When we played England, it was in France at the 2007 World Cup. It was in Lens. But Twickenham is a place that it was elusive for me. But for those Eagles that are going over there, what an opportunity. And I'm psyched for Basket to be one of them.
Yeah, I'm excited for the whole trip out to England just to see where, it's not obviously there's players missing from the Lions, but it'll be a good English outfit.
Yeah.
So good to see how they compare, and excited to see young guys get a chance and see what they've got, definitely. Talking of other games, another stupidly close one, Atlanta versus NOLA. And I knew that NOLA would have it in them, and being at NOLA was probably, it made it more tougher for Atlanta. But Jesus, 8-7. And I don't know if you saw, did you see our boy Mark O'Keefe with the old, I think the 15 was trying to offload it at the end. I think if he went for it, his momentum would have taken him over. And as soon as he tried to offload and stood a bit upright, Marky O'Keefe just put the old bicep curls to good effect and threw him back on the 5-meter line. But what a play. What a player Mark O'Keefe is this year as well.
Oh yeah. Like a man possessed. He is just all over the place. But that tackle, or Evan Minturn's tackle a couple of weeks back, that was sort of skirted under the radar, that single hand grab. I forget who that was against.
Yeah. I think that was against, was it the Free Jacks? It might have been even LA. But his wasn't, the guy wasn't going over the line. Mark O'Keefe's, everyone's going, oh, it's a try. And then suddenly, yoink, he's come back over the line. It was
unbelievable effort. You're right.
Yeah. And then our other guest was their only try scorer in the corner as well, Missile, with a cheeky chip through, chase down, look for all love and money that the NOLA had it, and then he just dives in there and nicks it from underneath them. And then the other try was real controversial as well from.
I wanted to ask you about this.
From our first guest ever on the show, Cam Dolan. Well, what do you want to know? I heard ball is out.
That's it.
And Cam heard it too. And once ball is out,
that's it.
You can go and get it. There's no offside.
No, you're right. You're right. There was a thing I was reading. I was following this a little bit because I saw the highlight on social media, and I'm laughing in my head. I'm going, I can hear, like you said, they were telling Duncan was the 9, and they were saying, don't use it, Duncan. Ball is out, right? And so Cam just picked up on that, ran around, picked it up, dotted down. Everyone just looking around like, what the heck's going on? What's on this thread? There's this thread there, right? And one of the people that was on there, the Keyboard Warriors, was like, that was ridiculous, and that's not how it goes, and that was against the law, and blah, blah. Cam responded to it, and Cam was like, I'm not going to say whether it was allowed or not allowed what I did. What I did was I played the referee. He's like, so that's, that's what it is. The referee says ball is out, ball is out.
And especially not, there is no fourth official. There is no taking it upstairs to check. Referee said it's ball is out. You run around, you get the ball, you put it down. It's a try. There's no arguing that.
That's it.
And the thing is, the same can be said about Missile's try on the corner. Did he get there first? It was very close between who got it and put it down. He scored it, got up, celebrated, jumped on his guy. Referee looks at his linesman, the linesman goes, so the referee goes, yeah, he looks like he's got it. Do you know what I mean? That's the sort of limbo that we live in. So if you do it with confidence and you listen to what the referee's saying, and then normally it goes your way. So
that does go. It does. If you look the part, bro, if you just get up like, yeah, that was good. I know that's good.
Fake it till you make it, Mikey. Fake it till you make it. That's the thing. So another victory.
We've all done it, Ben. We've all done it.
Another victory for Atlanta, though, which takes them 5 points clear at the top of the East Conference. NOLA are sitting in third, I think, because they get a bonus point as well. So they're sitting a few points behind. I think we're 5 points behind them with a game in hand. So East Conference is hotting up. The other East Conference game, DC versus the Free Jacks. Didn't think it would be as close as it was, to be honest. I thought that the Free Jacks would be more stingy and would run away with it. But 38-34 to the Free Jacks. Free Jacks had Wacker playing 10, which I kind of liked. He took an intercept and went the length of the field. But he's a good player. He's another really good squad player. Do you know what I mean? He can play 15, he can play wing, 10, 12, wherever you need him to play, he will play. He's an out-and-out fullback, and I like him at fullback when he plays fullback. Right. Obviously, they're struggling in the 10 position, and they gave him the start there. And I like that about the Free Jacks as well. They have a few guys like Dougie Fife can play 13, plays 12, can also play on the wing, played fullback at the weekend. They've got guys they can move around when they have injuries or someone pops out and they need to try different things. And they've got a good pack. They're stubborn. And one thing, they are a different beast at home. We've always said that about the Free Jacks. They're a tougher team at home.
They're undefeated at home, I think.
I think so. I don't think anyone's beat them at home. So, and I always think that's very important when you're ever playing a competition, that you make your own fortress, your home fortress. And I kind of like that about the Free Jacks. DC, I thought they were a bit more spirited. They had moments where they looked good. Obviously leaked a few points again. Tries is, toughening up a defense for them is their big work on. They can score tries. They came off a big loss to us, so it was an improvement. I think this weekend against the Free Jacks, they were looking a bit better.
Yeah, a chance for them to win at the end there too, right? Like they were right there. I mean, 4 points away. They had a line break. They had support there. They just didn't execute. They had a chance to put it away and be the first team to win in New England. But look, like you said. New England has some very versatile athletes all over the park for them. And DC it's not clicking for them right now. It's just not clicking. It's a shame they're sitting there down at the bottom, but they had their moments. Like you said, they had their chance. They couldn't finish. They couldn't capitalize. And sort of like, if you want to compare it, you said it earlier, sort of like Seattle a little bit, right? Like they had those moments where they looked real sharp, but just couldn't seal it at the end, which is, credit to New England for finishing it.
Would you say sort of DC's run has come to an end? We've got six games left.
Yeah, I think at this point DC's on. They're definitely on the outskirts. I think at this point in the Eastern Conference, in terms of hopes to make it into the postseason. Yeah. Right. And when I say postseason, it's just the top two teams, right? So there's only a semifinal. So I mean, you're looking at the first or the second seed, and I think for them to accomplish that at this point, although not impossible,
it's obviously nothing's impossible. Yeah,
would be a big 6 games left, a big undertaking. Yeah.
Okay, so one game that did surprise me was with San Diego versus Toronto. The reason being, I am a massive San Diego fan now. Fully think that they're going to take a run at it, and they didn't disappoint. They put up some big points, big figures, 40 points to 30. Toronto did look good at times again. Yeah. But San Diego were flexing. Chris Robshaw came off the bench. Pryor was in the squad. T. Franks has come in. They are really strengthening their squad and looking good for it. Like I spoke to you about them. I think they're the dark horse now in this league, from going from sort of, a weekly beating to now piecing together performances, strengthening. I think they're going to be the team that run for it at the end. It's going to be between Utah, them, and Austin for that second spot. Obviously, LA is still up there, but I do think LA could be caught. They can't get rest in the laurels. They've got to make sure they put in performances still. So I was impressed with Toronto, though. I still, Rumble was there looking like someone from The Mummy Returns with bandages around his nose, his face, his forehead. Mirez on the wing, I think he scored his 12th try for Toronto and became their leading try scorer for that organization. So congratulations to him, the Uruguayan international. But, Toronto, I still feel sorry for Toronto, because I feel if they were in Toronto, if they were in home, they had their own home ground, they would have been, a much bigger force in the Eastern Conference.
Absolutely.
This year.
Absolutely. Look, I was, there was I talk about these sometimes, but there was a meme out about, I think it was from the Toronto Arrows themselves this time. And it was a picture of one of their players. I forget who it was, but it was one of their players with this face on that was like, every other rugby player in the league, 3 away games in a row, or like 3 games on the road is very difficult. And me, try 18 games on the road, right? Like the idea was like, take every tour you've ever been on and combine them. And that's what Toronto is doing right now. Yeah. So I can't, you and I both know, right? You go on these tours, it's exciting for the first, couple weeks, whatever it is. And then by the end of it, it's just a drag, and you're like ready to be home. You're ready to be in your own bed. You're ready to be around your friends and family. You're ready to be just, in your own element. And so it's what a transition. And the fact that they're even putting together the performances that they are at times, Toronto, I think is pretty extraordinary right now. They're doing a massive job down there in Atlanta, given the circumstances. But if you're San Diego, you got to be thinking that, as you know, I'm sure from playing so much high level rugby and being in environments like World Cups and everything else, it's about peaking at the right time. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to sustain performance throughout the course of an entire season. And so there will be cyclical changes to how you play. And surely San Diego had their run of bad luck at the beginning and now seem to be finding a peak. And the question is going to be, can they continue to maintain that run of solid performances, or are they going to peak mid-season and then drop off, right? Yeah. Because, you want to be in a position where you maintain, keep yourself in that playoff race, and then peak towards the end when it really matters. And you could take one of those 2 spots and then be at your best for the end of the season, right? Like, look, I'm not Clive Woodward by any means, right? I'm not a World Cup winning coach, but like, that's what I would think you're aiming for if you're a team.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what it seems to me like they're doing. I think they're starting to play good rugby. They're bringing in reinforcements. They knew they were weak in certain areas. People are getting fit again, and they're just playing good rugby again. And, it wasn't a away game for them. They had to travel all the way to Atlanta from San Diego, and they still put 40 on the board against a tough and resolute. I know they're not the Toronto of old, but they're still a good team, and they have their moments, and it was a good game to watch. And
exciting. 40-30, that's 70 points scored in a rugby game. That's exciting to watch.
Exactly. Talking of exciting as well, there was the big what's it called, the Texas Cup was back on the line, Austin versus Houston, and we both called it, saying that Austin would sort of rout it, and they did. 28 points to 9. It was pretty easy sailing for Austin, I thought, anyway, watching the game. Houston never really threatened too much. And what I'd say about Austin is the way they play the game, I think they're the most structured team in the league. I think that they're defensively the most astute in terms of they're quite stingy in conceding points, but they put the the forwards in the right areas of the field. They go to their maul, they lean on their scrum. They've got finishers out wide when they suck in defenders. They just seem to be a team that are playing in the right areas of the field, and they just grind teams down. And someone like, we spoke about it last week, saying that the Houston were just, they're good offensively, but they're poor defensively, if you know what I mean. And they came against the league number one in defense. Couldn't put anything together, and they were out of the game within probably 50 minutes, I'd have thought.
Yeah. Look, I just more trouble in Houston. It's just a tough tough weekend for them. But Austin's a good side. I'm agreeing with everything you say. I think they're very structured. I think that they're a good outfit when you start to think about the race towards the end with LA sitting on top, and then the likes of San Diego, Austin, and Utah sort of vying for the next playoff berth in that conference. I think that's going to be an exciting race without question.
Hello, my name is Lance Williams from the Utah Warriors, and you're watching the USA Clubhouse.
Okay, our first guest tonight, Mikey, is someone that I've been looking forward to interviewing because they're from a team that I think has come the longest way since the beginning of this competition. He was born in Hawaii, then he moved to Western Samoa for a few years, came back to Hawaii, went to the University of Hawaii where he became a dominant linebacker, holds the leading record as a leading tackler at that university before captaining the side, then transitioning back to rugby, joining the Utah Warriors at the start of the MLR. It's none other than the dominant powerhouse number 8, Lance Williams. Lance, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, boys. Appreciate you guys, man.
Wait. First question. Are we going with Lance Williams or is it Lance Williams? What is it? We going Lance or Lance? What are we doing here?
You can say whatever. Lance, again, all this kind of stuff, bro. So
are you having a dig at me already, Mike?
No, I just got to make sure we're clear on this.
Lance or is it Lance?
We got to make sure we're clear. That's all.
Yes,
all. We got to do this right.
I'll go first out the gate because there's so much I want to talk to you, because me and Mikey have always been talking about teams that we really like. Utah is definitely one of those. And what I like about Utah is the progression that the team has made. They've done it the right way. They've built their facilities. They've built their community outreach program. Then they worried about the fans. And now you're winning games. And it just seems like the formula has all come together. And having been there from the start, tell me what's changed so much about especially the playing side of the game that now has put you as a dominant contender in the West Coast.
Just props to our guys behind the scenes, like our staff and stuff. Just recruiting some really good leadership players. Really like people like Mikey Teo, Mika Cruze, Oli Khalifi, like Paul Mullen. Guys that are well experienced, and I want to bring that to the table of a team that's been struggling for the past first 2-3 years. So bringing those guys in really boost our confidence and giving us the confidence to go in every week and learning from these guys from well experienced, just playing with the with the USA guys and stuff like that, and going overseas. But these guys bring so much good work ethic, leadership, and just consistency around the ballpark. So it's been good for us.
Speaking of guys behind the scenes, Lance, so you're playing for two of the youngest coaches probably in all of professional rugby, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if that's a true stat or not. I don't know the actual numbers there, but two guys that I'm big fans of, played with both of them, played against both of them. I think they're tremendous rugby minds. And, you had one of the most recognizable names in world rugby with Chris Latham there only a few months ago, right? To start the season. And all of a sudden he's out, right? For whatever reason that I don't know. But next, you got Sean Pittman and Sean Davies stepping up to the plate, both former US Eagles that have taken over the helm. Talk to me about what it's like to play for the Seans.
Yeah, those two, man, they love the game of rugby. So it's easy for us to not compare, but like to ease into it, because they were also here since even when COVID hit last year and the season was done. They were still in Utah, so like they watched all the selects, the academy team here. They kind of recruited with Brandon Sparks too. Like they kind of made their mini camps here, and then we got played a couple games when COVID slightly went away in November and stuff like that. But Sean Pittman and Sean Davies was here the whole time. They didn't go home or anything because of the season ended short. They didn't go home. They stayed here, looked out for some players to, just to recruit and bring in to like the practice squad, or, just getting ready for the season, the 2021 season with the academy team. So that was pretty good. And with these two young coaches, they love this game so much that they put in so much effort and time into, the passion and love into the game, same as if they were playing on the field too as well. So it's been an easy flow with these two guys. Ever since the COVID hit, they were still here and, willing to work and stay in Utah and work with us too.
I'm waiting for when you guys get hit with injuries. The front row and halfback, and Pittman puts his hand up and he's like, all right, guys, I'm in. And Davies is like, all right, I'm in. I'm going for this. I'm throwing myself in 23 here. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yes. That would be classic.
It's one thing we've talked about. We talked about Utah throughout the season. And one thing I was adamant about is that Utah used the COVID break, so to speak, better than any other team. I think you guys mainly stayed together. You were all, Utah was staying very alive on social media, community outreach programs, getting people involved, keeping the players together, obviously staying in lines of COVID and social distancing and stuff, but kept the guys in sort of like a bubble. And you did a lot of training in that sort of period, getting ready for the season. Do you reckon that's been one of the key factors, like having a well-gelled team, learning the players around you and that sort of thing?
Absolutely. We had at that point of our November and December block, our head and strength and conditioning coach Matt Madison had a program for us. The players bought into the bubble and stuff, and keeping our distance and just staying indoors throughout that time where we can finally at least take the foot off the pedal with this COVID stuff. So we're just trying to be safe. That was our first priority while training with the boys in the off season with Matt Madison. It's just to just take care of our health first and then slowly ease into it. But that point of time where the December and January block where we had the hard training stuff, we just stick together as the boys. There's always, like you guys know, like with the boys and stuff like that. That's how you bond with the team is with the boys. So you're just building that special bond with the boys and then carry throughout the season. So it's been working, showing it on the field throughout the season. So it's been great.
Yeah, it seems like that special bond is like everywhere through Utah. I feel like Utah is like a rugby mecca in the United States. There's the West Coast, right? Like in California, which everyone knows has lots of rugby. But then when I was a kid, right, I remember I went to Xavier in New York City, and we used to have these battles at high school national championship with Highland, right?
Yeah,
they were, Forever Strong, the movie, right? The rugby movie, American rugby movie when we were kids. Yeah. And Utah's always had this incredibly rich rugby history and rugby community, right? So tell us a little bit about what it's like playing in Utah and like what that community there in Utah is like, because I think people don't really understand and appreciate, right? Like Utah is a rugby hotbed.
Yeah. Man, the community here, the rugby community side here is awesome. So like there's so many clubs, teams here, especially you got like BYU rugby, Utah rugby, UVU rugby, Utah State rugby. So this game is slowly getting off the floor, especially in this state of Utah. So and then we have every home game before our game, we had a rugby game here with the girls, and they had some couple clubs from Vegas. The Vegas team came down and played the Utah team here, girls. So it's been every time we have a home game, there's always a game before us that the rugby community will always love to watch, and there's a decent crowd that come out and watch even before our games, and then when our games come in, like the community comes out like. And last night, I wish you guys was here. Last night was crazy. It was pretty lit with all the fans coming out and supporting us. So it was a really good atmosphere, really good setting too.
Was that the one where the mascot rode the motorcycle across the field?
Man, you see that? No, I was like, am I the only one that's seen this? This guy's about to kick the conversion. This guy
he ran right for the conversion.
It was crazy. It was
Dan Power he tagged Harley Davidson in his post on social media.
It was classic, bro. So it's going, bro. It's because this COVID thing took us in, put us in our homes so long, all this crazy funny stuff's going on right now in the scenes, but it's going great. It's awesome.
Is that the women's team from the Warriors? Sorry, folks. While he's on this,
it's a women's team from here, a local club team, the Vipers. Okay, cool. Yeah. But the team from Vegas was another club team from Vegas, a girl team that came down and played in the scrimmage. So it was good. It was actually a good crowd too. Yeah.
I want to take you back to the start, because I mentioned, you were born in Hawaii, then you went back to Western Samoa where you grew up, and then you moved back to Hawaii when you were 12, right?
Yes, yeah.
So were you playing a lot of rugby in Samoa? Because obviously rugby's their main sport out in Samoa.
Yeah.
Where you sort of got baptized in the game of
rugby. Yeah, so slowly into rugby, but it wasn't at that time. I was living with my grandparents at that stage of age. My grandparents was mostly focusing on cultural side of the stuff. So rugby was just to go play with friends. And that was the first time I picked up a rugby ball and just go play touch with the boys and stuff like that. But at the time when I was in Samoa, I wasn't really committed to, there wasn't really much organized rugby there yet. At my point is at the age of when I was at, but my grandparents wasn't really into sports at that time. They were just trying to put all the cultural side of Samoa into me, and then when I was slowly getting into high school, that's when I was slowly picking up the sport of rugby and getting into football as well too.
Okay, yeah, because then I wanted to ask you about that as well. Coming back to Hawaii when you were 12, and then eventually you went to the University of Hawaii, where you became a pretty big name in American football as a linebacker. And I mentioned you have the all-time leading record for the tackler at the university still to this day. Did you have aspirations then to go and try and further your career in American football, or was rugby always calling you straight away?
I had to make the choice of going to trying to try out the football side, because at that time I was so stuck into football. Like rugby was always in the back of my head. If I wasn't going to make the NFL, rugby was going to be my plan B, because of the the money wise and stuff like that, to help me support my family. So that didn't work out football, so it automatically clicked in my mind, like I'm gonna go try rugby. And this is and I still had that fire in me to just keep playing and being competitive as always. So I took the rugby route, and it's brought me here, and slowly getting into it and learning the game and being a sponge on the field and stuff like that, just absorbing all the experience and learning from these coaches and all these other players, man. So the rugby path it's been a good journey for me, and it's been a great blessing for me too as well.
Because that's one of the things I've really noticed with you in particular, Lance, is that that you have grown as a player over the last 4 seasons. And this year, really, like you've become like I wouldn't be surprised to see you being called into the Eagles team. I know you mentioned in interviews that you're not sure whether it be Samoa or Eagles, whoever comes knocking, but I can see that coming for you. But this year, you've really excelled, and obviously playing in this Utah team that, especially offensively, you guys are dominant. I think you're probably the best offensive team in the league at the moment. You score tries everywhere on the field. And being a number 8, it's important. Your role into that is very important. When to pick at the base, you're controlling the balls and stuff like that. So just tell me about your development. You mentioned that obviously rugby was on the back burner while football was going on, but this last year, 4 years, you've really developed. And what do you think sort of like really geared you on to make that change, to progressing from a good player to sort of like an international class player in the Samoa League?
I've been learning from so much, because ever since the year 1, I moved here to Utah. There's some good players and good coaches that passed my journey, like people like Fitz Fanicolo, Kurt Marath was my old teammate. Like I learned so much from those guys, just putting some experience in me, and like how to play around in different positions too as well. So coming, start of this season, I was playing number 6, and then slowly moved to number 8 because of roster wise stuff. So Sean Pittman's been telling me some tips about, playing. I can play all different kinds of positions, 6, 7, or even 8. So just in playing that 8 position was kind of like a different role for me, because I'm always used to playing the side of the scrums like 6 and 7. But the 8 this year was the 8. Playing number 8 for a couple of the games this past week was, it's pretty good experience, and I'm willing to learn so many. And then like talking to Yuri Van Yuri, man, he's giving me some tips of how to play 8 and stuff like that. So it's been a great journey with these coaches, and even mostly the players too as well. So I learned so much from Mikey Tail and like Oli Khalifi, and all these well experienced guys like Angus McLennan and stuff like that. Even the overseas guys too, the South African boys that we have. I've been just being a sponge around those guys and learning from my mistakes and trying to strengthen what I can do. So just become an international player. So it's been a great journey.
Careful what tips you take from Ali. Oli would love to think he plays back row. Not Ali, right?
my man is a master scrum. So whenever he's like, keep the ball in. Like, yo, bro, I got you. I'm gonna try. So that's my man. He's cool.
Oh, I love Ali Khalifi. So wait, so sorry, I was so excited about the whole Utah thing. Like I fast forwarded over your whole like build up into that, and I apologize. Ben and I try to stay with timelines, and I
no, you're good.
That one goes so psyched because I anyway. But going back along the timeline, because we're in that time frame of your development, developing in Hawaii, right? There's been a lot of hype around Hawaii as a rugby community. Right? Like MLR team potentially in Hawaii. I know that like for me, the dream was always at some point to play a test match in Hawaii. And I feel like every year there was conversation about play a test there, and it never happened. Right? Like just, we were going to play Japan. We're going to play Samoa. We're going to play Fiji. All of it was going to happen in Hawaii. Never happened. Right? Never actually.
Mike with your surfboard was packed.
I would pack in my kit bag would be my board, and that's it. Like, mouthpiece, board, gone.
I was jealous that LA did their preseason in Hawaii, man. So I was like, dang.
Right, exactly. But there's definitely talent there, right? And you would know better than anyone. So where are the Lance Williamses of the world hidden in Hawaii, right? Are they there? Do they exist that you've seen, that you've encountered from playing football or rugby or whatever else? And how do we get them involved? How does the American rugby scene go and find these players and give them the opportunity to be a professional athlete?
And no, I can tell you already hit it on the spot. Like there's a lot of talent in Hawaii. I think that the problem that they have is like football is always first because, to help their families and stuff like that. But just, from people like Sam Ching and Vili, guys from Hawaii that's, putting their name out there, such as myself in the MLR, that we can tell these kids, like, if football doesn't work out, hey, would you guys come play some rugby, play some professional rugby here in the U.S. At the MLR. So with those, to help those kind of kids that we want to slowly just, put some camps in there, to MLR camps in Hawaii, or maybe, send on some film with those guys and trying to talk to those guys to if football doesn't work or if anything else doesn't work, let's try out some rugby in the MLR so we can get some really good talent from Hawaii. So like you hit it right on the spot, man. There's some really, really good talents in Hawaii. We just got to go look for them, man. So it's really good, some great potential there in Hawaii too. Not only in Oahu too, but there's a lot of big talents in the Big Island and Maui. And Villial probably knows those guys too with Samu Ching, so they'll probably give you some tips too as where the big talents come from.
So we should organize a recruiting trip.
We should. I am down. If the MLR comes up with a Hawaii camp, sign me up. I'm going. I'll be down to go. I'm pretty sure Sam and Billy would love
Ben,
to.
what about you? You
so
coming? Ben? We're going on a recruiting.
Let's go, baby.
If I'm going, Mikey, I'm going for the right reasons with Sam and Lance and those boys. You're going for the surf, mate. You're there to surf some waves.
But look. No. I'm going out there because I'm on a new team, right? I would love nothing more than to see a place like Hawaii really sort of get put on the rugby map, sort of.
Yes.
Because, I think
I agree.
It's definitely from the mainland perspective, right? You talk about rugby tours, right? You talk about, you want, especially as young players, right? Like I think back to myself as a high school player, as a college player. The draw was always, let's go to Europe, right? Because we're in the East Coast, so the draw was always, let's go to Europe and go play. But I think let's sort of change that mentality. Let's get kids to go and play down in Hawaii, right? Like let's get rugby tours down to Hawaii to bring more games to that community, bring more teams from the mainland to go down and play there, and then create like an intercultural rugby community to bring Hawaiian rugby into like the full throttle, like big picture of US rugby. Because right now I feel like they're there, but like they're not in any of the big club competitions, right? When you look at the top US domestic club competitions, there's no Hawaiian team. Even in college, University of Hawaii, like I don't know that University of Hawaii comes over to play the likes of Cal or BYU.
Cal, yes, right?
So let's try to get them involved somehow, I think, right? So that's the goal. Right. I would think that would make sense.
That's the goal. I'm pretty sure if University of Hawaii made a rugby team, I think that would be totally awesome.
See, folks, it's not just about look, we got big plans here.
Mikey, we get to the coaching world, mate. We get to the coaching world. Let's pitch it. We'll go to the University of Hawaii.
New York Academy. That's it, folks. I'm going on a recruiting trip on
nice.
New York Academy team to Hawaii. All those kids. New York.
Talking of creating teams, as Mikey, you just mentioned it then about there was plenty of talk about Hawaii coming into the MLR. And there was also plenty of chat about it being very, very New Zealand heavy led. I think the investors were looking to come from New Zealand. Maybe a few ex-players were looking to invest. There's part of me that would love to see that. But the other part of me as well is just thinking, because New Zealand love to steal the Samoans, they love to steal the Tongans, they love to steal the Fijians. Are they just trying to get their claws into the American market? Get these football superstars who can make that transition, and then the next thing you see them in a black shirt playing in the World Cup. That's the only thing that worries me. But another thing you mentioned as well, I mentioned to you earlier, you have international aspirations to go and play at the highest level, and you've mentioned you'll have two options. You can either go and play for Samoa, or you can go and play for Eagles. Is there a preference of which one you want to do, or is it just you want to go and represent a country and you feel that you're both solidly representing either one?
Both will be really good experience, but I would love to put on the red, white, and blue because I know I was born and raised here in the U.S. Hawaii is home. Samoa will always be in my heart, but it'll be a great honor to put on the red, white, and blue because I know there's a lot of talent, going around in Samoa and stuff like that. But it's just a different feeling, putting on the red, white, and blue, doing the national anthem. And even playing at the University of Hawaii, the national anthem was always there. I always get butterflies before the games. It's just a good experience here in the U.S. So my higher percentage of playing would be probably with the red, white, and blue. So, but anything can happen. I would love to represent Samoa. Samoa will always be my heart. But to live in the U.S. for the amount of years that I've been playing here and stuff like that. So, but the U.S. Red, white, and blue will be my choice.
So there you go, Gary Gold. If you're watching, Lance Williams is ready to put on the blue, white, and gold.
So Lance, you mentioned how important your culture is to you, right? So from Hawaii, it's sort of a Polynesian rich community. If I'm not mistaken, there's a very rich Polynesian culture as well in and around that area in Utah, right? If I remember from when I was a kid growing up, again, playing the likes of Highland, there is a very strong Polynesian community in that region and in that area. Talk to us a little bit about why, it's like, I remember as a high school kid, you would rock up to play a team like Highland and see from the kids from New York, there were no Polynesisian players on our team, right? And you go out and play Highland, all these Polynesian players. And then I played at Belmont Shore in California with a lot of Polynesian guys. And it's such an awesome culture, an awesome community. And they bring so much of their identity into the rugby world, right? So they bring that into their teams, they bring that into their programs. How important is that in the Utah Warriors organization? You mentioned some of the names of the guys that you play with. And then on top of that, right, talk to us about that cross-cultural relationship between rugby and the Polynesian culture, because I think that's such an awesome sort of story, right? And you find that many Polynesian players thrive when they find that home, within those groups, right? If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
It's you hit around the spot that there's there are even local players that even played here in the local. So people like Saya Uhila. So he's been playing here for years in Utah for the club teams here. People like Thomas Tuivau and stuff like that. Joe Mano. Those guys were playing local, in Utah with the local guys. And these guys have so many talent, so with these camps that we had and the bond that we, these guys, these guys can even cook too, man. These guys are bringing in some big food and stuff like that, but these guys are bringing in some good units. And like you said, just coming in and because they work so hard for, you know, trying to make the Utah, because the Utah Warriors is like right there professionally, like in Utah. So like if you play for the Utah Warriors, like you like kind of like you the man or something like that. But these guys were working so hard, like trained, everything, the work ethics that they put in the club rugby, and they kind of show what they're kind of like they're really prideful to, like they want to play for the Utah Warriors. So those guys with those combinations with these other guys too, like the guys from overseas, it's been a great collaboration with these two.
Does the name Henry Bloomfield mean anything to you? Do you know who Henry?
It does. Yeah, I heard of Henry Bloomfield before, man. That guy was a big unit too, bro.
Because like the more I sit here and think about this, like Ben, I don't know if you know who Henry Bloomfield is. Henry Bloomfield was capped for the Eagles. We played together at Belmont Shore, and then the 2007 Rugby World Cup. I mean, he was just a giant human being. Great, right? I do believe I don't know if he was from Hawaii necessarily. I think he was of Tongan descent. He played football in college. I don't know where. But he played in the NFL for a couple of years, and then he's this Polynesian back row player at Belmont. But he was like the main guy, right? Like when I thought of the Polynesian community that I was, you know, part of playing with at Belmont Shore, it was like Henry Bloomfield was like the orchestrator of the whole thing. Right? Like after the games, he would sit down. We would invite people over for food. They would sit down and drink kava. You know, till the sun came up the next day. I just feel like that is such an important part of what the Polynesian community brings into the rugby community that like I would have never been exposed to if I hadn't played the game and met people like that, right? And I feel like that's so important and valuable and has become such a unique part. I mean, like Ben, you probably know, right? Like in the UK, same sort of thing, right?
Yeah. Well, I think even even at Rooney now with Samu and Appy.
Yeah,
we still do the carver thing, and we learn the pants and the claps.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing with the Samoan boys at Northampton. You know, the PC brothers, they were down there. Khan Potteroo, Sam Manoa as well. We used to do.
Yeah,
it's awesome to learn that side of the culture. And even when I travelled with England to New Zealand and stuff, we used to go to the Polynesian communities where they live and breathe it, and you learn about the hackers and all their way of life. It's awesome. It's part of and. Thing is, as a kid, you watch all the hackers and stuff, and it's what you want to do. You never get to do them because I'm not really New Zealand, but they're awesome. It's an awesome part of rugby, definitely.
It is. I agree.
Well, we're going to let you go, Lance, because I know you've got to get off the training. But before you go, Mikey, you might be interested to know that Lance is also a school teacher.
Yes, I was giving you a chance to speak.
And he's bought your book.
Yes, sir.
Lance, I was trying to give photos. I felt like I have hogged the airwaves for 20 minutes. I'm so excited about this. And dude, I'm a teacher. I'm a high school teacher though. I am definitely not a preschool teacher. I do work. I have a preschooler myself. My daughter.
Yes.
What is it like being a preschool teacher, man? Like, what is that like? And a professional rugby player. That's mind-blowing.
So I got my degree at the University of Hawaii while playing football there. So I got my degree in special education and then minor in sociology. But kids was always, I love kids. I wanted to work with them throughout my, high school and college career. But the goal is to become a high school counselor. But the preschool right now is just to keep me busy. Because I can't do full time right now as a teacher or as a counselor because of rugby too as well. So this is just slow trying to get this preschool is just helping me get me off my feet. But it's been a good journey with these kids, man. Like I come to work with bruises on my face and limping, and they're like, "Hey, Mr. Williams, what you doing? Like, why you limping? Why you got a black eye, Mr. Lance?" Like, nah, it's just just playing some rugby. I was like, rugby, and then I got the book. I got your book. I bought your book. I read a couple, R's for rugby that's a great book. So I never heard of the book. So until a friend of mine, Matt Jensen, he told me about it. His wife was like, "You should read this book." And I bought the book, read it to my kids, man. It's like, "Oh, so this is what you do over the weekend?" You're like, "Yeah, this is what I do over the weekend when I'm not with you guys." So
that's amazing. That is so cool. The Jensen family coming big. That is awesome, man. Thank you so much. That really,
no worries.
That means so much to me.
No, that's awesome. Thank you for that. But that was a wonderful book. My kids love it. So,
if your goal is to be a high school counselor, you'll be well prepared, having worked in the you'll be thoroughly prepared. I'm like I said, out of a preschooler and a high school teacher, you're gonna get to high school and be like, oh, this is cakewalk. This is
nice.
Well, Lars, awesome. Thank you very much for coming on the show. It's always good to speak to someone like you.
Yes.
Been lighting it up recently. I hope that form continues. And Mikey and I are both big fans of the Utah Warriors. We're back on the bus. We jumped off a few times when you sort of had a few jumps, but you're a joy to watch. You're lighting it up. Your team's doing awesome. So looking forward.
Thank you, Ben.
Guys, what you're going to do in the playoffs and stuff.
Easy. We'll see you soon. Well, we'll probably see you in New York in a couple of weeks. So thank you, Ben. Thank you, Mikey, for having me. So I appreciate you guys. Keep doing what you guys doing. So thank you guys.
Take care.
Cheers.
Hi, my name's Sam Harris, and I'm the head coach of AG Rugby. You're watching the USA Rugby Clubhouse.
Right, guys, time for our second guest. And this week we've changed it up a little bit because obviously we usually have players. This time we've gone for a coach of one of the most exciting teams since the start of the MLR. New Zealand born, played most of his rugby out in Australia, and now he's over in the MLR to chance his hand at coaching. It's Mr. Sam Harris of the Austin Gilchrist. Sam, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem, Ben. Great to be here. What an honour to come on the show. And thankfully, I didn't get to see you play against us at home, and we got the victory probably because of that.
Oh, I think you've been a bit generous there, but I'll take it. That's what I say to our coaches anyway. It's awesome to have you on for a number of reasons as well, because on this show, we're all about seeing it different sides of different stories. And obviously being a coach and coming into the MLR, I think that's going to be a real good aspect of what give our viewers a real good aspect of what's going on in the league. First and foremost, what's it like being out in Austin? I mentioned you're a New Zealand born, played a lot of rugby in Australia. Am I right in saying this is your first coaching gig in terms of coming to America and being out here?
Yeah, sure. I was previously in Japan for the last 8 years, coaching in the Japanese top league.
Yeah.
I was actually coaching Marty Burke's brother, Colin Burke, last year.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, last year. And so I've been plying my trade over there. This is my first professional head coaching job. And it's been great being out here in Texas, in Austin. Austin's a great city. The weather has been crazy. Started off with snow apocalypse when we had to shut down for like 10 days. We had to ration water and didn't leave my house for like 6 of those days. So, and then on top of that, like everybody said, this has been a crazy spring, and it has been. Like, it's been really unpredictable. So that's been hard to navigate. But apart from that, Texas is a great state, and Austin's a great city.
Listen, I'm a big fan of Austin as well. I've had a few nights out there. Got the feeling. What I really like about Austin though is the setup, is the interaction now that you guys are having with your community, and you're building a fan base. You've now got a home, and it seems like, I look at organizations like yourselves, like Houston, and it just seems like you have really good foundations now, and it's all about building your team, obviously they've brought you in, the coaching is looking better, you've got an influx of players coming through. It just seems like you're building things the right way. And a few years ago, Austin was sort of seen as a team at the bottom end of the table, whereas this year they've really started to come into your own, and you've started to, win games. And what's been most impressive about the Austin team is your defense. Your defense has been awesome. And it's something that I always thought was lacking in this league in terms of teams concentrating on their defense. Everyone was scoring lots of tries, and it was a bit, and I didn't really want it to turn into that league. And we've seen now that if you can play both sides of the ball, especially you guys, I think you've got the best defense in the league. That your defense can win you games and make you very hard to sort of put away, especially when you're playing at home and that sort of thing. What's been the influence in that in terms of your coaching ability coming into the side?
Yeah, thank you for that. First of all, I'm covering the defence, and I think with my rugby league background as well, and through all my years in Japan, defence has kind of been the passion of mine, and we try to keep it simple, but it remains effective. Our field is a little bit narrower, so that helps a little bit too. And on top of that, our maul defence hasn't conceded one try yet this season. So that plays a huge role in points scored. So there's a few factors there with the defence. Our attack is like on the verge of clicking, and when it does, but we're running out of games. I think, we've got the pieces there to really contend at finals footy, but it's hotly contested in this Western Conference now. So we've got a real job ahead of us with 5 games remaining to get us into that position. Then once we're there, I think we've got a lot of the crucial pieces of the puzzle.
What's it like coming into a side that you know little about, because the MLR's only been around for 4 years, and obviously, like I mentioned before, Austin were sort of a side that was struggling to pick up wins.
Yep. Coming
into the side and blooding new players, finding new players, building a team. How difficult has that been for you coming into that environment? Were you able to bring in players, and did you have an idea of how you're going to build this team? I know that you've got Connor Mooney-Hammer, we've had on the show beforehand, having young guys like that, looking at them and getting them on the field and realizing their potential. How hard has that journey been for you?
I don't know if it's been hard. It's been a lot of work for sure. I think when I first signed, I was in Japan and then moved back to Sydney for 6 months and then finally got here in January. So, I think I've got a fair bit of my hands all over this corporation at the moment. But what I did know, without results, this team had a good, bare bones, heart and soul about it. We just needed to put a little bit more polish around the edges. And we kept some of the OGs like Mason Peterson and Zinzan and bring back a few of the other ones like Paddy Ryan and Ned Hodgson. So there was a core of that real identity that started it, the foundations, as you said. And then I did want to bring in some experience, and there was already some here with, say, Jamie McIntosh and Kurt Morath, but then also we brought in a few bit more experience like Isaac Ross, Seb Di Chavez, got a little bit more height in the line out so we can apply a bit more pressure there. And then, as you said, the young brigade, like we had pick 4, Louis Satama, who's now gone to Atlanta, but we had him, and then we had Mason Cook, and then we got Cameron Dodson as a free agent who in everybody's opinions probably should have been selected number 1, but wasn't made eligible. So, and then through the Dallas draft, we got Connor. So with all those guys, and then we brought in Sydney Shoup, who's younger than all of them. Mason Peterson played with all those guys, so he's of the same age. He just started a lot earlier in the MLR. So like we want to build to something here, and this is, for me, if I do it right, I'm here for 5-6 years. So I think this club's going in the right direction, and we just want to finish this season off before putting things in place to build to later in the future.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that as well, because I spoke to we had Nick Boyer came on with Houston. I said, off camera, we did the interview, and I said, if you're looking to build a team, he's the kind of player that you want to build your team around. With Houston bringing him in late from LA, I was saying, for coaches, that must be the most exciting thing when you look at your team and you see the sort of spine of your team and the players are only 25, 26, 27, and they still probably got like 8 years in them. Is that something that you're looking at as well? Because you mentioned, hopefully if you do things right, it's a 5-6 year career, and you're building a team to win, championships back to back, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. It was something that I looked at, and with that, on top of the players, like the players are such a crucial part of it, and we've got the pieces there. We've had a lot of, I wouldn't say we've had like an injury crisis, but we've never not had a week with 2 or 3 players out. So that's really played on our continuity. So I'm looking forward to getting a bit of continuity in the back end of the season. But on top of the playing roster, it's all the background staff as well that play a huge role. Like my coaching staff is strong. I've got Simon Thomas here, who's come from the Canterbury Crusaders. He was with them this year, and he's been with them for 4 years as my head of performance. And so he can see what we're building here at Austin is a viable product. And then our guys in the background, in the back staff, they're they're doing our match day production, and as you've seen it there at Bolt Stadium, it's a real festival atmosphere. So everyone's on the bus and they're all going in the same direction, and it's an absolute joy to bounce out of bed every morning because everyone's moving in the same direction.
I have to ask you, because I always talk about him virtually every other week. What's it like having Gilchrist as your head honcho? Because I love having someone like him in the league. I think he's doing it the right way. He knows how to build a crowd. He gets American sports, and like you said, your crowd, everything around Austin at the moment, it's a massive talking point, but also it's making people want to go and watch you guys play rugby. And obviously you're winning now as well, which is also going to help fill stands. Yeah,
he's funny, Adam. He's kind of like the Kaiser Soze of MLR. And actually, if you talk to him, he wants to stay quite anonymous. But what he is very passionate about rugby as a whole. But he sees more of an opportunity to have more influence here in America than he may have in Australia. So he's really positive and believes in youth rugby, and he's got all these ideas to push the sport here in America. And for me, that's so exciting to be a part of and to be, join him on this journey, because and it's good because he has got a bit of a negative stigma sometimes when you talk to some people, but it's positive. I think that paradigm is switching a little bit, talking to people like you. He is doing things really right. If you look what he's doing with the Giltinis and putting them on, getting them into SoFi, and before that, their normal home ground. Why can I not think of that?
The LA Coliseum.
Like he's putting American rugby on the map. So, honest and without too much pressure. He's not overbearing. He's not saying we need to do this, we need to do that, and he's just, again, he's putting the piece of the puzzle in the right spots and then letting them go and do their thing. So I really appreciate him as an owner for sure.
No, I love what he's doing. Like you say, there's always going to be people moaning, and I think it's more of the people who play for the other teams who will look at LA, look at yourselves, and go, look at what they've got going on, and we struggle every week. But I think it's so important for the game. I think it's important, especially. I think he understands American culture in terms of sports, that it's a business, that you've got to have villains, you've got to have heroes. He's creating both. He makes big signings, he brings in guys like you who know what's going on and how the rugby world works, and then, like you said, he takes a seat back, he sits back and lets you guys get on with it, which is awesome. And I really appreciate someone like him coming into the league. Now we just need to get like a Jeff Bezos and a Mark Cuban to buy a few teams, and we're halfway there.
Yeah, that's right. For sure.
I want to take you back to right back, because you said you played lots of rugby league back in Australia. When did you switch to union, and was it purely just for coaching? And then how did your journey start in the coaching world and end up at the Austin Gilgronis?
Yeah, it's quite a strange journey. I grew up playing rugby league and a little bit of rugby union, a bit like a splash, and then wanted to be an Australian schoolboy as a rugby league player, and I'd missed my opportunity. I didn't make the team, and then I got an opportunity to do it in rugby union, and I did make the Australian rugby union team. So after that, I kind of stayed with rugby, toured the UK and Ireland, and played for the Australian schoolboys and 19s, 21s. Played for the Waratahs initially for my first 2 professional years, and then kind of got pulled back into rugby. Did 3 seasons with the Seagulls, Manly Seagulls. Did 1 season with the West Tigers. And then got pulled back to the Waratahs for another 2 years. Played there, in both areas. I made 1 semi-final, 1 final, and then got called over to Japan. I wanted to check out Japan, see what that was like. And I think being here only demonstrates how much I just love experiencing things and experiencing cultures and people and different organisations. And I'll never die wondering what would have been. So when this opportunity came up, I was, as I said, in Japan, and I just jumped at the opportunity. I really had to drag my wife out of Tokyo screaming and kicking because she didn't want to leave. But now that we're here in Texas, she's really happy to be here and loving this experience that we're giving our children.
So what you're telling me is you're the original Sonny Bill Williams. You flipped back and forth, did it all, and then eventually went to Japan, get into the coaching role. I like it.
Yeah. When I started playing league, he started at the same time. He was at Canterbury when I was at Manly, but he was probably 4 years younger than me. And he did very similar to me, just did it a lot better and with a lot higher profile teams.
So you mentioned that your coaching journey, did that start with Japan or did you go out and play there first and then fall into the coaching afterwards, or how was it coaching in Japan as well? Because it's quite a unique atmosphere. Some guys are professional, some guys are working, your team is usually owned by a big company.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so after I played in Japan, I came back and I went to the Western Force for a season, and then my knees just gave out on me and I had to retire at 30. And then I jumped straight into Sydney Club Rugby. I was the head coach of a club called Warringah, who Darren Coleman also coached to a premiership. And I coached there for 2 years. And then from coaching there, got my team that I played for in Japan asked me to come back and be a coach. And I went for a 1-year deal and stayed there for 8 and played and coached 2 different teams, Honda Heat and the Ricoh Black Rams, who, as you said, were owned by corporations. And it's quite a unique concept over there. It's not so much a money-making adventure. It's more of an expense to the company. And, they don't make much revenue from the crowds, but there are big crowds there in Japan. So that was a great experience for me and my family and everyone that I came in contact with, and only enriched me for this experience here now.
It's interesting that you talk about flipping between rugby union and rugby league, because I've definitely found in my career, especially towards the last 5 or 6 years, that coaches really do look at rugby league and take a lot of things out of rugby league that can be used in rugby union, especially like the fixed plays, playing out the back of people and that sort of stuff. How much of that do you think has been a strength of yours in terms of having both the knowledge of both codes of the game? Is that something that you find has really helped you with the coaching when you've come into especially the MLR or Japan?
Yeah, I think it's a huge asset for me anyway. I think in terms of the things that I've taken from league are probably the running lines are probably a little bit sharper in rugby league and put a little bit more importance around what you're actually trying to achieve. But in saying that, you get a little bit more consistent pitches in rugby league. Yeah. Also, the defensive side of things, like how to get your foot in close, how to manipulate attackers, the positioning, your footwork, how important that is as well. So they were probably the 2 main technical parts of the game that I took from it. But then I think the mental part of rugby league is where I probably took my biggest learning, and how much more the body is capable of if you have a strong mental capacity and you can train that mental capacity with fitness drills and then different mental torture or strengthening drills within a day's training or within a team building training or whatever you want to do. But I find when I talk about enjoyment in rugby, that's kind of the stuff I'm talking about as well, like getting down in the trenches with your teammates and finding out what you're made out of personally and finding out what they're made out of. And then that you can count on them when the chips are down and when you need to score a try with 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, definitely pressure on pressure and seeing how guys sort of come out of that situation. What I was going to ask you as well, there's plenty of ways, different coaching characteristics, different things that coaches like to do. I just wanted to sort of like dive into behind your sort of process in it all. Are you someone who's very organized? Do you go into your sessions knowing, we're going to do 5 minutes here, 10 minutes on this, 10 minutes on this, 10 minutes on this? Are you player led? Are you, are you coach led? Through the years of my career, obviously I've been under a lot of different coaches, and some people like to be very hands-on. Some coaches like to hold the bag and smash the players. Some people like to just sort of walk around and be in the background. What's your sort of philosophy on coaching the Austin Gilgronis?
Yeah, it's a great question. I haven't been answered that very often. I think I take elements from everything that you tossed up there. I think I do want to provide a culture and a learning environment where it is very player-led for sure. But with that, the players need to have the trust and the confidence that if things don't go well, that I'm going to take the heat for that, because at the end of the day, the buck does stop with me. So I think what I want my players to think of me is that first and foremost, I care about them and I have a genuine care for their development as a player and as a person. And if they have that, then I think that's kind of what I can build everything else off. In terms of holding the bags, happy to hold a bag for someone. Happy to hit the bag for them to show them what I'm wanting from them.
Yeah.
It's to be a combination of all those elements you said. I think that's the kind of coach that I want to be. Anyway.
Yeah, you want to be able to tick every box. Yeah, it's interesting because as well, I've seen with a lot of coaches who they like to take someone under their wing at some point. Do you know what I mean? And usually throughout the season, you see them sort of grooming a couple of players on the side. Yeah, they coach the whole team. That's always things, but they sort of they have pet projects. Is there anyone in your team who's a pet project? Any of the young guys coming up through? You think, yeah, I can really make this player something special. You know, I know that Connor Mooneyham and a few other boys from the team have been. They were selected in the wider squad of the American Eagles who are going to go and play England in a couple of weeks' time. Is there anyone?
Yeah.
I always like to look at the future of the game as well. Anyone who's really impressing you over there in the Austin Gilgronis who we can keep an eye out for?
Yeah, so it's funny. Whoever I say, I'm going to cop a ribbing over who I didn't say. But I think initially I really wanted. And again, it's being biased, but I really wanted the Australian players to do really well. And I thought if the Australian players did well, then our team would do well. So McLean Jones has been a guy who's turned up every week and always in the MVP votes from the players. Mac Mason, has been one that we could really count on and has put it out there every week. Hugh Roach, very dynamic player. So, but I think for all of them, not so much Huey, but for the other two, they've had a little bit of a tough trot of it with injuries and selections over the last kind of 4 or 5 years. So I wanted them to rediscover the love of rugby and to have that empowerment to go and do that, enjoy it and get results at the same time. So that's kind of one answer to your question. Then the other one is we've got a lot of athletes here that are kind of ex-footballers, and ex-college footballers. And so your Rod Waters, your Don McKeenans, your Don Baileys, Lerone White, all these guys that are still learning the game to a certain extent, but on a Saturday when they cross the line, they're still getting a job done for me, even though they're still learning. So, yeah, I would say those kinds of guys I find really interesting, and they've all got a really high ceiling if they apply themselves in the right areas.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Mac Mason because it was something that I always thought Austin were missing is a guy in the 10 shirt who could sort of march around the field and then in the big moments deliver. And he's done it a few times for you boys in the last, I think he did the crossfield kick for Fraser Waters to score. He knocked a penalty over, I think, the next week as well. So went back-to-back games where the game was on the line and he sort of stood up and was counted. So, I've been a big fan of his this year. So well done on that part. Okay, a question that I can only ask a coach. It's the first time I've ever been able to ask a coach this. If you could steal one forward and one back from any other team in the MLR, who would you like to add to your roster?
I've only got to answer one. Like, there's so many good players out there. I'm a little bit coming from, because I saw him play in Japan and play so well. His name's just left me. A lock for San Diego who's just come in.
Tom Franks.
Tom Franklin.
Tom Franklin, yeah.
He is a wonderful player, and he will be huge for San Diego, and they're pushed to the finals too. So he's a great player, but in terms of like Lance Williams at Utah, huge.
Yeah, very well.
Schultz at DC, great number 8. There's so many good forwards out there, and it's hard question to answer. And then in backs, I'm a little bit biased because I'm a real Matt Giddo fan, and I think he's been huge.
He was one of the best players in the world. Well, probably still is, but once upon a time. Yeah,
because I've been seeing him play straight in Japan, and he was actually just living down the road from me, so we'd catch up every now and then. And to just hear his mindset and how he sees the game and everything, I'm just such a huge fan of his, and to see him put it out there every week. Everyone says how old he is and all the rest of it, but he doesn't look old, and he's delivering on the park. Ben, you get a mention. I'd consider you. I do enjoy watching you play. You look like you have fun out there, and
I do. I've always played with a smile on my face. That's the one thing that Rick, our CEO, says. I don't think I've ever seen anyone have as much fun as you out there. I said, well, if we play like we did against DC and we're winning by 40, I'll have fun all the time. When players always say, oh, I love the hard fought, 12-9 matches. I'm like, no, I like a blowout. I like it when we win by 50, and that's when I have fun. So you'll see a smile on my face then. But saying that as well, I spoke to my dad after the game and he said, oh, you can tell you've lost a yard of pace. I'm like, oh, cheers, Dad. Thanks for that. So, I understand why you'd bypass me. Okay, and so obviously you're sitting in the West Coast, like you said, it's heating up. I think it is going to get interesting over there because San Diego coming into things. You mentioned they brought in a few players who've bolstered their squad. You guys are looking good. Utah are playing well, so it's sort of a fight for those places. But say Austin, they get in the top 2, they win the West Coast. Who do they want to see in the final against them from the East Coast? Who who's caught your eye and has impressed you so much in the East Coast so far?
Again, a little bit. I think New York play a really attractive brand of football, and another Japan-related big fan of Andy Ellis, huge fan of Andy Ellis, and I think again he's a guy who competes hard and has fun out there. So I like New York. You guys play well. Atlanta as well would be interesting to see. If we played Atlanta in the final, it could potentially be a 3-0 victory for the Premier.
Win by neutral mile when he's winning. All right, Sam, thank you very much for jumping on with us. I understand you've got to get off and get to training and do some things out there in Austin, so we won't take any more of your time up. But thank you very much for joining us on the Clubhouse. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, mate.
Thanks, Ben. Really appreciate the opportunity.
No problem. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Good luck in your games as well.
Thank you.
Sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand. Sport can create hope where once there was only despair.
All right, Ben. Well, we're coming to the end of another episode of the USA Rugby Clubhouse. So it's that time where we need to talk about a packed weekend. Everybody's on. No bye week for anyone this week. So everyone's on. Full house. And a lot of rugby to be played and some really exciting games.
There's some dingers. There's some dingers for you to call here, Mikey. There's some dingers. I put a lot of pressure on you as well. I might as well start with the top of the table in the Eastern Conference class. Atlanta are hosting, are coming to New York to play New York at the weekend. Atlanta on form, scraping by at the weekend, really getting some wins together. New York off the back of a big win against DC the week before, having a week off to sort of freshen up, revitalize, let the old boys get some well-earned rest. Going to be a cracker. And we're moving stadiums as well, I should say. We're moving stadiums. We're off to Queens to go and play at St. John's University. So the other teams that have been to Cochrane Stadium will know it wasn't the best place to come and play. So the Atlanta boys should be delighted that we've moved fields, and hopefully it'll be a nicer track for us to have a run round on. How do you see it going, Mikey? I know you're a Rooney boy through and through.
Do you have an answer for Mark O'Keefe? Let's go. What do you got? Who is going to shut him down on both sides of the ball? Is it Ben Foden? Are you the answer to Mark O'Keefe?
There's an easier one. They have Mark O'Keefe. We have Will Leonard. The kid and the cowboy are going head to head.
I would love to see that. That is so good. When I think about those two guys, even thinking back to when they sometimes played in the midfield together. I know Mark played wing for us quite a bit, but that was just what a duo. I mean, Will is just an absolute steel door for you guys in the midfield. I mean, exactly. He is just so solid. But O'Keefe brings so much flair, man. He brings.
I've always liked O'Keefe. I always thought he was a great player. I was disappointed that Rugby United New York didn't re-sign him this year. I know he wanted to come back, and and they just didn't think he was a fit, and they went a different direction. And I'm delighted for him that he's gone to Atlanta and really shone, because he's been a shining light in this league. And I mean, he dyed his hair blonde, everything so he had more eyes on him, and he's not disappointed at all. So
look, I'm really excited for Mark. I think that sometimes you need that door to shut, you know, and to be sort of in a position where, you know, you're fighting for it. And he really has. He's done a tremendous job down in Atlanta. I think Atlanta's been playing really well.
I tell you what, I know we talk about O'Keefe and Missile and the backs and other guys there, but the pack of Atlanta.
Yeah, you're right.
Guys like Chance.
Exactly. Chance.
Ross Deeks, who was obviously at Rooney once upon a time as well, scoring in the last minute to win games and things like that. They're just a good team, and I've said this before. They're probably the best team from like 1 to 35.
Yeah,
everyone talks about 1 to 15.
A good job. They're well coached.
They're well coached. They got a good squad.
But Ben, you're asking. I'm picking New York.
Lovely. No explanation needed, Mikey. I see you winking at me. I know I am the difference, but we'll leave it there. We'll move it on. We'll move it on real quick.
Ben Foden, after a week in Nashville, must put in a good performance. You guys have to now. That's it. Otherwise, no more weeks off in Nashville.
No more weeks. Do you know what? That is always a constant in players' the back of every player's mind. Damn it! If we want another week off, we better win it when we come back. Hopefully, that will be a bit of a.
It gives you leverage when you win. When you win and play well, you have leverage. When you lose and play poor, you have no leverage.
Exactly, mate. So there's a lot of pressure on this weekend. Nola versus DC. DC herding. Nola be disappointed that they didn't win, but it's at DC, so they've got to do the traveling. I will go Nola. I think DC are just in a bit of a hole at the moment, and they definitely have it in them. They have a good group of players. If they can get everyone fit, keep everyone fit on the field. It's just that sort of that mentality, that losing mentality, is literally leaked into the DC camp at the moment, and they need to get out that funk. So it's not above them. I think that DC could win that game. I just think Nola will go and do a job. They need to win to put the pressure on New York and put the pressure on Atlanta as well, because one of those teams is going to lose, and it means that they can jump the 4 or 5 points up closer to them.
Yeah, I think you and I both know it's tough to get out of a slump. I don't think Nola's the team to do it against, so I'm going to go with Nola.
This is Toronto as well. We didn't really talk about where Toronto's sort of like. We spoke about what, you know, we've been sort of impressed with their organization playing away from home for 6 months, but are they out of it? Because if they're going to be in it, this is a big game for them, because they're playing the Austin Gilgronis away in Austin. And if they're going to stay around in this Eastern Conference, they need to win games like this.
I think this will be a good one, but I think that, like you said, the Austin defense is good. That's a tricky one, because I like Toronto. I do, but you know what? I think I'm going to stick with Austin at home. I think Austin at home over Toronto. Although I do think Toronto will put some points on the board. I think they'll pressure the Austin defense more than other teams have in the past. I do think so.
Okay, I will go. Yeah, I think Austin as well. I just think because Toronto are going to travel. This is what I think Austin are good at. I think Austin are good at keeping teams out. I think it'll be like a 17-8 game. Maybe like that, 17-10. I think that Austin are good at that. And I know what you mean, because when Toronto do open up teams, they score tries. And we saw that firsthand when they smashed Rugby United New York earlier on in the season. It's just that, like I said, I think that Austin are one of the most structured teams in the league. They're well coached. I think they'll know how to break down. They'll look at Toronto, know how they want to play the game plan against them, and play in the right areas of the field. And I think they're stingy. They know what they're good at. So, like you, I'll go Austin. And I think it'll be low scoring, because I think that's the way Austin like to play the game. The big one for the West Coast Conference is the San Diego versus Utah. And I think San Diego are going to be the team to do this. Honestly, I think they will. And I think that it's, San Diego are away at Utah, but this is sort of a real, I'm not saying it's the be all and end all of San Diego's, attempts of getting into the top 2, but I think it's a real turning point. If they win this game, they are back in the mix in serious contention. And then I think the whole league is literally like, oh crap, hold on, here comes San Diego with the late charge. And I think they do it. I think they win by more than 2 scores as well. I think Utah are leaky. I think they leak too many points.
Yeah.
I think San Diego are going to be a bit more stingy. It's Mikey Teo's an old San Diego boy as well. So the boys know what he's about, know what he's capable of. Will he have the same magic he's had in other games? I don't think they'll kick loosely to him as a back 3. I think that San Diego win this one and win it comfortably. That's a big statement as well.
I don't know. I don't think it'll be comfortable. I think it'll be a high-scoring game, and I think it'll be close. But I do think that San Diego will persevere. I do. I think that Utah is going to really pump this game up because it's a big one for them too.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that they'll try to bring the crowd out in force. They'll try to really get some energy in that arena. And when that happens, Utah is a tough place to travel to. That's a tough place to go play. So I don't think San Diego will run away with it, but I think they will have a little bit too much for what Utah can handle on defense. And I think they will get the edge.
For me, that is, well, I think Atlanta and New York's a big game, but game of the week, I think, will be San Diego versus Utah.
Those are the 2 big games of the week. Those are the
they
2.
Are. They're 2, yeah.
Because the Atlanta-New York game could be a prelude or a preview, whatever you want to say, to the semifinal. If that's what ends up being the 2 top teams in the East, that could be exactly what to expect in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
And on the other side, this literally could be the game that determines who ends up in that playoff spot in second place to play Los Angeles. So, that doesn't get any better than that, really, to be honest.
And then there's some other games on. Should we not even talk about those? Yeah. No, Seattle go to the Free Jacks. Free Jacks at home. I can't see. Well, listen, Seattle, like we said, Seattle played well against Utah. Against a strong Utah, they did play well, and there was moments they can, but I just feel they are lacking a killer edge to kill off games. They're missing a kicker, a guy who is guaranteeing them 10, 15 points a game with conversions and penalties. And Free Jacks at home are a different beast. I just think they're a team that are very stubborn and don't lose many games there. So I can't see the bottom of the West Coast going there, who are struggling to piece together performances and wins and beating the Free Jacks. So I'll go with the Free Jacks.
Free Jacks at home. Let's go. Next game. Come on. Free Jacks are at home. Let's go.
Houston versus LA at LA. Houston, Strugglesville. LA still flying high. Well rested after a week off. The thing is, the last time these 2 teams played, Houston were the first team to show that LA weren't invincible.
Correct.
And they put in big performances and scored tries, and it was a close run thing. They have sort of lost that form, Houston have, because they were on a bit of a high then, and I could see it being a real thumping, to be honest, if I'm really honest.
Depends who LA plays. It depends who LA puts out, what kind of side they put out.
Oh, of course, yeah. But they're well rested. They played Wednesday because their last game was like Wednesday. So they've literally had 2.5 weeks of resting up, getting ready for this game. So you'd have thought, the big guns are going to come out for a run around. And if you were a coach in mind, you're thinking, let's just put the big guns out for 50, 60 minutes, blow these off the park, get all the cobwebs out, bring them off, bring the subs on, give them 20, 30 minutes.
I think so.
Big confidence boost.
There's a lot of rugby left to be played, right? So they may not do that this weekend. They may just continue to give guys a big mid-season rest, right? And we'll see what they do with their lineup. So we'll see what happens. But they, look, I will say though that I did get an email that Los Angeles is looking to host, for anyone who's out there that's listening, is looking to host all of the USA Eagle alumni at the game, get free tickets to the game in LA. So the LA Houston game. So if anyone's out there in the LA area or wants to make a trip out to LA to watch the game, anyone who's played for the national team at any level, I believe any level, I didn't say specifically seniors, but just said Eagles, men or women, get yourself in there, go watch some rugby this weekend. They're willing to host you. I think you get 2 complimentary tickets to the game. So that was pretty cool. I thought that was really a pretty awesome push from a media standpoint and advertising standpoint from Los Angeles.
So you've booked your ticket and you're
I
off
wish,
to LA
man.
weekend,
I wish. I was thinking
the
about
surfboards patch, you're off to go. Yeah, okay, I like it.
Yeah, right. But it's gonna take a little more than that, I think. I mean, look, I would love to go watch that game, don't get me wrong, but I can't really justify a cross-country trip for a weekend just because I could get 2 free tickets to watch LA play Houston. Like, I don't, maybe a little bit more, and I might have some leverage in that conversation. But otherwise, I could watch it on the Rugby Network, no problem. So,
what do you think of the heat, Mikey? I'm just thinking like the heat's going to come a factor now, especially places like LA. It's going to be hot. New York's hot. Places are heating up. This is the problem with having the season run longer than we originally planned. It's getting hot. Training's getting hot. It's going to have an effect.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. Look, the latest I ever played 15s was the end of June, for the June tests. And I just remember just putting Houston into perspective here. I remember going down and playing twice in Houston, once against Italy and once against Ireland. And it was 7:00 at night. And it was like the second week in June or the third week in June. And it was unbelievably hot. And it was grass. It wasn't turf. I mean, it was just brutal. And the ball was just slick and wet. And as a 9, it was miserable to try to throw the ball around. Every time someone tucked the ball into their jersey, it was like, might as well have just been playing with a bar of soap. I mean, it was just awful. But I stand on the field this weekend coaching Nyack, and then standing on the sideline at your game against New England.
Yeah.
And that turf, when the sun beats down on that turf, it is really, really hot.
Yeah, it is.
And uncomfortable. And that's going to, it's just a shame because I feel like it's just going to be a drain for the players. And it's like, you could see, I could see it in you guys when you were playing. By the end of the game, it was just, everyone was just exhausted, right? Like different level.
Not me, mate. Not me. I was still ready to go. I could have played another 80 minutes.
That's because you sit in the back. You probably
sunbathing.
And you've got what? You've got who's your shoe sponsor now? Who's sending you free shoes? Probably got built-in ice packs.
Still Nike. Nike.
Yeah, sending you built-in ice packs to keep you comfortable in the turf. Come on, man. You're a cut above everybody else.
Well, let's hope so the weekend, because we're going to need it against a tough Atlanta outfit. Thank you, Mikey. As usual, we've broken it down. Hopefully, we've given some insight into people watching the show, into the games coming up the weekend. You can bet on MLR now. If you're going to bet, don't bet what we say. We are rubbish when it comes to this sort of thing. Just an FYI, we take no responsibility on that. But always a pleasure talking to you, Mikey, having the guests on the show as usual. And as always, if we don't see you this week, we'll see you next week in the Clubhouse.